Welcome back, my friends, to TFT Hyper Roll with Artark as we barrel towards the end of 8.5 and get ready for set 9. Let's start this with the graphic. Like, comment, subscribe, lives, weekends, etc., etc. You know what to do. I was asked during a live stream to do this build, to do Renegades, and this is popular in ranked as a Riftwalker, Renegades, 3 Riftwalkers, 5 Renegades. But there's a huge advantage in Hyper Roll. Since your team is going to 9, you can get to the 7 Renegades pretty easily, and we'll show you how. Now, it often helps to get good augments. These are not them for this build. Preparation is likely the least offensive, although I do not like taking it, and the reason is it requires me to think too much, because you now have to keep in mind that you have to keep champions on the bench, off the bench, move them in for NPC rounds so that they get more prepared. While it would be nice to have all 3 Renegades in the first fight, you don't always get that because Camille is a 2 cost and you only have a 25% chance of rolling 2 costs, so you just do the best you can early on to make whatever team you think might win. Whether it does or it doesn't, it's a whole different story. One nice thing with preparation is when you end up with 2 1-star champs, you can keep one on the bench who will be getting more prepared, and then they'll be fully prepared once they combine into a 2-star. We've brought in Pike because the real key to this build is combining it with Riftwalkers. It's the easiest way to get to the 7 Renegades since Jhin is a Renegade, and you can then turn Zac into a Renegade by putting him closer to Jhin. Item-wise, you're thinking about Jhin items or Vex items, depending on what you're getting. In this case, the sparring gloves will go well with Jhin because it can be on a Last Whisper or an Infinity Edge. But if you're getting more AP items, then think about itemizing Vex. In a perfect world, you're able to itemize both of them and get full items for both of them, but the world isn't necessarily perfect. So you're going to have to go with what items you're being offered and then think about the champions you're going to need them for. Now it's time for the second set of augments, and normally I do not roll silver tier, but these are trash for what I'm doing, and I suspect the last augment will be a hero augment, so that would leave me safe to roll. You may think Renegade Heart is the way to go, but you really don't need it because you can get to the 7 if you get a little bit lucky, and hoping for luck in this. So since we're hoping Gary's at his desk, we're going to go ahead and grab Celestial Blessing to give us much needed healing for later in the match. Stage 5 and 6 can be really tricky for this build because you're not likely to have any real synergies beyond your 3 Renegades unless you happen to hit the small percentage chance of getting Jhin and can put him in and form Zac into the Renegade. It's just not likely to happen right now. Your best strategy for 5 and 6 is to get a champ who will be able to use the same items as either Jhin or Vex. In this case, we were able to get Vex in because she was fully prepared. Found a Garen, gave him the Jhin items since they're both AD, but it didn't matter when facing this mascot Aatrox who could just withstand so much damage and end up just wrecking our entire team. But this is why having a friend at Riot is so dang important. You need to get a Jhin in 6 because you will see the power spike is real when you go from 3 to 5 Renegade. And once Zac becomes a Renegade, we're able to take down the person who had not lost a match yet. It's time for the final set of augments, and I'm hoping it's hero augments, but I was hoping it was going to be tier 4 so we could get a Jhin augment. Unfortunately for this build, the Vex augment is the only one that's really going to work, although they just are not that strong. We had put Jhin on the bench for the NPC round so he could at least get one more level of preparation. We also managed to grab a Nunu off the carousel so Nunu can go in, creating mascot. And there are just 2 champions left to complete this build. That will be Viego, who we already have on the bench, and then the ever-elusive Leona, who only seems to show up when we don't need her in a build, so I'm hoping we can find her here. And if you decide to go with this build, the key is going to be patience, because you are going to lose early rounds, and then especially in that 5-6 range where you don't have Jhin, but the payoff is usually worth it. Got some items off the carousel that were good for Viego. Ionic Spark, Hextech, Gunblade are excellent since he's going to be diving into groups of people, so he will weaken their magic resist. From this anvil, we are hoping for something to finish off Vex, because she only has 2 items right now, but there's nothing here that's really going to work. However, Sunfire Cape on Nunu is always a decent idea, since Nunu is going to just wander around the entire board, setting people on fire this way. And since we're going to be using every Renegade, might as well get the gold 3-star Lucian. And as I'm sure you know, the way Renegade works, the last Renegade alive gets an extra power boost, and that is going to be key, because you are hoping that Jhin is going to be your last Renegade alive. And in this case, you can see, boom, Jhin ends up with over 11,000 damage. Adding in Nunu in this case really helped this build out, because it gave that little extra healing that kept champions alive just a little bit longer, and that allowed Jhin to do enough damage to bring us into the top 4. We're at our final 2 item choices, and this one was a really tough choice. I'm not a fan of clumping in these builds because you can often get wiped, but Randian Sanctum is going to work really well with this build, since I don't have to have everyone spread out. So I decide to go ahead and get that. For the next item, really want a Vex item. Morellonomicon is the only one that can even slightly work. I'm really happy to find Leona on the other side of that item, so we now have the 7 Renegades. And we run smack dab into what I was kind of most afraid of with the clumping that Randian Sanctums creates, because you have teams with wave clearing, team clearing ults, and it gives them an easy direction to hit and knock you down. Luckily, not out. Now here's where everything kind of ends up working. We can hope that someone else knocks them out. I just embrace the main clump, put everyone around Silas so they're getting buffed, while keeping Vex and Jhin at opposite sides, so they both aren't going to get caught up in a wave clearing ult. We're then able to get through this person who was running a Riftwalkers team. So maybe we now have a chance to get a 3-star Jhin, which, as you've seen in a previous video, just completely can end a match. We give up on the concept of the 3-star Camille or getting additional Vexes. In rolling, we find out, okay, we can get the 2-star Leona. That's going to be strong. We're going to move her up front so she can engage, put Nunu in the back because he just needs the additional armor that he's getting from Randian Sanctum, and then he's going to roll away. Luckily, this team took out the team that was going to be our big problem. They had a pull, and they pulled in Lucian, which was fine. It didn't matter for us because our power is Jhin and Vex, and you can see they are doing exactly what they need to do, while Nunu, of course, is rolling his ball around, leading to GG for everyone. This is a fun build. Give it a try in these last couple of weeks. I think you'll enjoy it. And as always, have an absolutely awesome day.